Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. For those of you who don't know us, we are Jan and Jessie, and in the summer of 2020, in the midst of travel restrictions and a pandemic, we bought a boat in the UK and sailed it down to the Canary Islands to spend the winter there and learn a thing or two about sailing. We sailed to Adhara in spring and on to the Med for a summer season. In late 2021, we sailed back out to the Canary Islands and recently crossed the Atlantic Ocean. In this video, we go all the way back to when we bought Adara in the UK. We explore beautiful Cornwall in summer and get ready for our first big crossing, a 1,300 nautical miles trip to the Canary Islands. We hope you enjoy this video and stick around with us. We have been slow posting videos, but we'll promise to keep it up in the coming weeks. In our last video, we took you along as we traveled around Europe in search for a boat to sail around the world. We looked at flashy new ones and old ones, and after visiting contest yachts in the Netherlands several times, we were pretty much decided on the 48CS model. And so we continued to look exclusively for this type of boat. The issue with 20-something-year-old boats can be many, but what we saw was sometimes the teak deck could be a problem. So when Adara popped up in our search, she had just undergone a major refit in 2019, where the owner had stripped the teak deck and applied non-skid. We knew it had to be her. Because of nationwide lockdowns, we decided from afar to put down an offer, subject to a pre-purchase survey and sea trial. We figured that a professional surveyor would have a much better eye spotting problems than us anyway. So the survey and sea trial was done without us ever seeing Adara in person. And so we were stuck in lockdown and waited and waited and waited. It's the 9th of July 2020, just a few days after travel restrictions in the UK were lifted, and Jan and I booked a one-way flight to London. Our cheeky offer was accepted and nothing major came up in the survey. Well, there were a couple of things. A stuck mainsail during sea trial, an alternator that wasn't charging, low batteries and a broken generator. But we had waited enough. We had sold our furniture and moved out of our apartment in March, just when things around the world started getting weirder and weirder and weirder.
It comes from China.
So, with our belongings packed into bags, we drive down to Plymouth to take delivery of Adara and move aboard our new floating home.
There's nothing but the breeze and the great unknown. Leave your worries and your suitcase. All you don't need, nothing but you. So don't throw your hopes down on wishing well. It's your heart's desire carry you. Come and sail with me to the open ocean.
Since we never met the owner and there wasn't any sort of introduction to the systems on board, we were pretty much left at the dock, keys in hand, up to ourselves to figure everything out. We discovered a few more things that needed work, and so we got right at it. With zero mechanical knowledge of boat systems, we did get help on board over the first couple of weeks. Our days were spent tearing the boat apart, taking inventory of what was on the boat and what spare parts we needed. All I saw of the boys during those days were postures similar to this. Despite the fact that the broker listed the boat as ready to sail around the world, it became obvious it wasn't. The list of work included installing bilge pumps, an engine room fire system, windlass switches, a new GPS, VHF, a new drive shaft, since crevice corrosion was discovered by coincidence while we had the prop dismantled, and had it polished. We came to learn what boatwork means. For every item we ticked off the list, 2 new ones came up. We had inspection hatches installed in our fuel tanks and discovered that they were full of diesel bug, so they were emptied and cleaned. We had our aqua drive restored, got 2 new engine mounts, we upgraded to lithium batteries, 2 new engine start batteries, a new exhaust muffler, installed a complete bonding system, and finally a new generator. I even used the time to get new interior cushion covers and cockpit upholstery, after which the boat definitely looked more like our home.
our little tender. And we are still in Plymouth, getting the boat ready. First time we're testing a dinghy.
It was finally time to leave the marina. And even though we didn't get to sail as much as we'd hoped for, I can't begin to describe how excited we were to finally head out. We sailed from Plymouth to Falmouth, stopping in a wonderful town called Foy on the way. That whole area still holds a special place in our hearts until today. It's one of the most beautiful places we've been to, even though we did get a full taste of Cornish summer that day.
Return and bend, I will take with you. Come to lift us up, bring in this new life, where you yourself reside with us. This is not the end. I will go with you. Every turn and bend, I will take with you. The hunger all will end, and there will be no fear. You'll wipe away each tear for us. This is not the end. I will go with you. Every turn.
Yup. After nearly sinking our dinghy in Falmouth, we dropped the anchor in Halford River, and when we wanted to put our skills to the test, we realized we had lost our anchor at the first attempt. The sun was setting, and I quickly got in the water and tried to dive on the anchor. It was only 5 meters deep, but the water was freezing, and the murky river had a visibility of less than a meter. I could barely hold my breath, and I couldn't find the anchor. We spent the night on a buoy and headed back into town next morning to get a spare anchor. At this point, we didn't know if the chain broke or a pin had come loose, so we decided to have our chain professionally tested by this awesome bunch. Now, if you're wondering what happened to our anchor, we did go back to the spot and gave it another try. The weather had been calm for a couple of days and visibility was much better. Glad to report, we have our anchor back. Number 1 lesson we learned here was to always check equipment ourselves. And number 2, to always double check. Over our stay in Cornwall, we continued to explore as much as possible. We rented a car and fell in love with its natural beauty. Its charming coastal towns, Cornish pasties, the coastal path, and the incredible friendliness of everyone that we met. One thing that we never really took a liking to are those narrow roads. We had planned to take it slow, making our way across the channel, down along the coast of France, Portugal and Spain, exploring places along the way. But as fate would have it, things turned out a bit different. So in late November, we still found ourselves in Falmouth. With unclear consequences of Brexit and winter approaching, it was time for us to say goodbye to Cornwall and sail south. But there was one problem. Neither Jan or I felt confident enough to sail Adara across the Bay of Biscay on a 1,300 nautical mile journey from Falmouth to the Canary Islands, through the northern Atlantic in winter by ourselves. Until this point, I barely had any sailing experience and I had never done an overnight passage. We decided to take a delivery skipper on board and had 2 voluntary crew join the trip. It was that or leave the boat on the Heart over winter and postpone our trip until next summer. We couldn't have made a better decision at that point. It was one of the best learning experiences we've had aboard Adara until today.
Leave your worries and your suitcase. All you don't need.
Join us next week as we sail across the English Channel and the Bay of Biscay. We encounter a couple of problems on this first shakedown sail, and eventually the storm caught up with us.